1 spoon blank. So your first step when you want to make blanks for carving is to decide what shape you're going to carve. I have a whole little box of them here. Fairy door, whale tail, round door, and this is one of the favorites, a rustic spoon. The first step is to find yourself a really nice piece of cottonwood bark, or of course buy yourself some craft wood like basswood. You can also carve spoons out of green wood, fresh cut wood like alder, willow, apple, cherry, pine even, although pine can be very splintery. So the idea is to make sure that you have a piece that's not going to crack on you. You can see right there, that whole slab is probably going to come away. And I see here, this has a fairly deep crack in it too. So I don't want my handle of my spoon to be right through that. I have this piece that I was going to use for something else, but it is just the right shape and depth for a really nice spoon. So I just trace out your pattern on the wood and make sure that you have the depth and that you've got enough room for your spoon, because a lot of times the bark will taper. Once you've got your design drawn on there, I like to use a photo pencil or a wax pencil or even a marker so that I can see it really clearly when I bring it over to cut it on the scroll saw. Here's me cutting and sanding a different spoon blank. Scroll saws are pretty straightforward to use, a lot quieter than a bandsaw or other saws. I really enjoyed working with this tool. If you don't have a scroll saw or access to power tools, you can use a small handsaw like this one and just cut in and around the best you can, get as much of the meat away as possible before starting to carve. I did it this way for a long time. I also find it helpful to sand the bottom on a bench sander so that I get a nice flat surface on the bottom so that it's easier when I'm working on the scroll saw. Again, this is something you can do with a handsaw or a draw knife. When I don't have access to my power tools, a draw knife like this one can really help me clean up the bark quickly so that I can draw a pattern on and start cutting it out. So my first step is to adjust the guard so that the piece slides, and you've got to make sure it's going to fit all the way around the piece of bark. Then, before I start the machine, I decide where I'm going to cut first, which way I'm going to go around the piece. I usually like to start as close to the edge as possible. Turn the piece as you go, and remember, if things are getting out of control, with a scroll saw you can always stop and pause, or take the piece and back out of the cut. That isn't always an option on other power tools. Be sure and use a push stick when you're getting close to the edge to keep your fingers safe. And there you have it. One spoon blank ready to carve. Yeah, so all you do is just follow the line around, making sure you have a forward momentum and that you're not forcing the blade on too tight of a curve, or if you find that the blade's bending too much, you need to back off. Otherwise you'll break your scroll saw blade. And there you have it. One spoon blank ready to carve. Bark will often have these rough areas, and so in my instructions I always advise that you do your bowl on the top part, because this will be rounded over and cut away.